right, in Chapter 7, that starts on page 239 of the book, we talk about lists and we talk about links. We have discussed those a little bit in previous chapters. We have talked about an ordered list versus an unordered list. All right, I'm going to show you in just a minute an example of both. All right, so we will talk about them some more in here. In addition, there's a nested list. And if you don't know what that is, you probably do, believe it or not. It's a list that's inside of a list. That's all it is. So why is that important? Well, what you'll see when you start at the bottom of the chapter, when they talk about creating navigation menus, that's all. So if you've got a menu that's 3 levels deep, it's a list within a list within a list. That's all it is. All right, so we'll talk about that. We'll talk about formatting. By default, when you create a list, you get the bullets. So, I mean, I put something out here before. It's just real simple. I took this from online. Here's an unordered list. So if somebody told you to go to the store and buy this stuff, I'm asking you this. If somebody said go to the store and buy that stuff, would it matter the order in which you bought it? No, right? But when you look at this, if you don't do step 1 first, you're probably not going to have cookies. So there the order matters. So this is an unordered list, and by default, it gets dots. There's 3 things that you can set up for this. One is exactly what's shown there, the dots, or you can get a square, or you can get a dot that's not filled in. If you don't like those, you can add your own graphic. What does that mean? That pretty obvious what the difference is? All I did was I went out and asked for a picture of a chocolate chip cookie. And then I took the size of it and cut it way down. I'll show you what I did later. But you can see the difference. The other one I didn't change. All right. So we'll talk about those, the different kinds of lists that there are. And then links. We've talked a little bit about links before. Again, you all know this. By default, a link is blue and it's underlined, right? You click on it, it's purple and it's underlined. If you take your mouse and you put it on it, again, typically, it'll turn a different color too. So that's what we're going to talk about in that section. And then finally, how to create different sizes of navigation menus. When you do your next test, which will be next week sometime, I don't know when, but when you do your next test, it'll be on chapters 5, 6, 7, and 8, okay? And when you do that test, I'm going to try to make you have to type in as little as possible. But you're really going to be using CSS to do the one that we used for your first test and fix it up. What we're doing in there is you're working on your electronic portfolio. That's what that's going to become. You'll have more stuff to put in it the longer we go. Does that make sense? All right. So you will have, by the end of the semester, hopefully you'll have some stuff to put in there. By the time you get into your last semester here, you'll have a lot of stuff to put in there. All right? Okay. So how to code unordered list. Again, the main thing about a list that's unordered, not to be funny, it doesn't have any order. So the order doesn't matter. Now, if somebody said, hey, tell me the name of the 3 students in your class, it wouldn't matter if I said Maya, Keegan, Max, or Max, Keegan, Maya, or Keegan, Max, Maya, etc. Correct? But if somebody said, give me the 3 people who were in your class in alphabetic order, then the order would matter. So when you're talking about an unordered list, starts with a UL, and all, that stands for unordered list. LI stands for list item. The only difference between this and what we'll see on the next slide is with an ordered list, you use OL. With an unordered list, you use UL. All right? And by default, when you create these, that's what they look like. All right? So those are called bullets. Not that many people like that terminology, but that's what they are. It sounds better, I guess. It's easier to say bullets than filled in rounded circles. But that's what they are. Again, if you don't like that, you can go in and you can change what gets put in there by using simple CSS. All right. So again, ordered lists have some kind of an order to them. All right. They give you an example here. Well, think of another example. All right. I've been living here now 3 years, but when I drive around at times, I'm not great with directions. My wife can go someplace once and then know how to get there always. Not only that, she'll go, I bet you if I went this way, she can figure out stuff. I'm just stupid. And I can't do that. I can't. She can. All right. But the point is, so a lot of times I either put something in the GPS or I go out to MapQuest or something and just run up a copy. But think about this. If I said I was going to the Cardinals game tonight, all right, and I started, let's say I live in Lake St. Louis. I wanted to start in Lake St. Louis. Well, it'd be quite different if I put my home address down as opposed, for example, even putting this down, this school. All right, I would get there going that way, but I might go out of the way a lot if I came to Rankin first and then went back again and went to I-70. It'd be stupid, but I could do it. All right, and I don't live far from 364, which probably would be faster to get down there anyway. But order matters, and that's exactly what the author says here. Again, when you use an order list, by default, they're numbers. Okay, and you know what numbers are, but you can also make them lowercase letters, uppercase letters, lowercase Roman numerals, or uppercase Roman numerals. You can make them any of those. All right. You remember that? I always think it was about 4th grade. You had to start making book reports, and you had to like Roman numeral 1, and then ABC, and C would have a 1, 2, 3 under it. That's how you could make those. Very simply. All right, by using ordered lists, and you'd have an ordered list within an ordered list, etc. All right. So again, a nested list is a list within a list. So notice what we have. There's a UL. Starts here, ends here. Inside of that UL, we've got an OL that's right here. Notice that OL has got 1, 2, 3 list items in it. Okay. Then we got another LI. So this is before you start this WinZip extractor, and then how to create this. Key thing to notice, see that right here? We've got number 1, number 2, number 3. Then we break it up, but we want to continue our list, so we want it to start at 4. All right. You could have even put start at 66. It would have looked weird because it would have been 1, 2, 3, 66, 67, 68, but you can't do that. All right. So what you see is you get the first 3, and they're all under the first unordered list item. Then you've got another unordered list item, and then you've got the next 3. But since we said start, we put some semblance of order to it. If you didn't put that start equal 4, this would be 1, 2, 3, and that would be 1, 2, 3. Does that make sense? All right. So again, you can nest lists by putting one inside of another. There is no limit. You literally could have a list within a list within a list within, etc. So if you've no, you're right. And if you've ever gone out to a website if you've never heard this rule, the real rule with websites is you should be able to get wherever you want in 3 clicks. It's called the 3-click rule. Is that always the truth? No. But you'd like to be able to. But maybe you've gone out to a website. If you go out to that thing I showed you earlier in the semester, that websites that suck, you might find somebody's got 7, 8 layers deep in a menu. All right. And they think that's good because the person can go down.
That reminds me of Wikipedia. Because like if you ever scroll down Wikipedia or ever like have to use Wikipedia, the way the website's set up is like a huge fat menu and then it's like paragraphs within the menu.
Yeah.
Also, Amazon's a big example of 3-click rule. I mean, what you do is you click once to search, and then what? Click again to add to cart, and then click again to buy.
Yeah. And why do they do that? To be honest with you, Amazon wants you to get in and get out as soon as possible. Because somebody else wants to buy stuff too. They want you to get in, spend all your money, and get out. Then they want you to come back tomorrow, get in, spend all your money, and get out. Ideally, that's what they want.
Yeah.
But, you know, when the guy who owns the place is a billionaire, he must be doing something right, correct?
Yeah.
All right. This is called a definition list. This is the hardest one to work with. You do DL, which stands for definition list, then DT, which stands for definition term, then DD, which stands for, believe it or not, definition, or definition description, depending on the book you read. These aren't used often because most people don't like the way that looks. But sometimes you'll see these used, especially like in computer books, where in the back they have a glossary of terms. That's sometimes where people use this. So they've got client, then the definition for client. Web server, then the definition. Now, I will tell you, I've created websites for people. I've never used one of these, ever. But that doesn't mean that they're not out there. All right? Other people may not agree. I might say, oh, I think they're ugly. I think they're this. Other people, I don't care. The bottom line is this. If you are contracted to work for somebody and they ask you for one of these, you don't want to go in there and say, you don't want that. It's really ugly. Just do it for them. All right? And, you know, you might look at that and go, you know what? They're not going to like that. Guess what? The cash register that is your brain should start going ka-ching, ka-ching, and you'll be going, they're not going to like that, so they're going to have me come back and fix it again at another time. That's more money that I'll be able to make. All right? I mean, I worked for a company where they wanted me to create an application for them. I'm telling you this. You're going to maybe laugh. God's honest truth, I'm not making any of this up. The guy who wanted me to make the application, he was wired differently than most of us. How's that? And he was telling me what he wanted. And I said, okay. And he said, first thing, I want the background to be this color. And it was the most god-awful color of purple I'd ever seen. I can't even describe it to you. And the text that he wanted with it was very hard to see with that color, but that's what he wanted. And I thought, okay, he's never going to want to keep that, but okay, you know. And he said, now, I want you to make this come up and ask the user, when they click on this button, they'll say, do you want to delete this record? And if they say yes, I want the funeral march to play. I'm not kidding you. This is what he wanted. You know, dum, dum, da, dum, dum. It took a while to even find that online where I could use it, because a lot of it was copyrighted and stuff. But I did. I gave him exactly what he wanted. I knew I could do it in probably an hour or two, but he said, how long will it take you? I said, 2 or 3 days. He goes, oh, you can have a week. Okay, sure. I gave him everything he wanted, and I'm not making it up. The next day, can you change the background color? And can you get rid of that god-awful music? All right? People sometimes don't know what they want until you give them something. There's an old saying about that. I don't know what I want, but show me something, and I'll show you what I don't want. And fortunately or unfortunately, that's how a lot of this stuff works. All right?
That's why it's so easy to interchange it.
Yeah. That's why, with CSS, colors, fonts, etc. Doesn't take much. All right. So how to change the bullets for an unordered list. Notice what you want to say here. List style type or list style image. Guess what? We've already looked at a little bit of this. That list style type none, that removed those bullets if you remember when we started to create the navigation list. Already seen that. All right. So if you don't want there to be anything there. So again, they call it a disk. Some books call it a bullet. It doesn't matter. But that's the filled in circle. Circle is a circle that's not filled in. All right. And in fact, I actually took their example right here, this example. And all I did was I changed the name on the example. I changed the name from star to CCC, chocolate chip cookie. That's what I saved that image as. And I put it in an images folder. All I did. All right. It's not like it took a whole heck of a lot of work. But notice what we have here. All right. We've got 2 unordered lists. Now we're saying the class is circle. All right? And when you say the class is circle, that's what you get. And here we've got class is star. You're going to have to change those things. This is what you'll put in your CSS. List style type circle. All right? And list style image, and you've got to give it that. Notice they just use stars. You can put anything in there. You'd be surprised, and I'm not just saying this, that if you were creating a website for somebody, you know, and they'll come up and say something, can I have stars there? And you're, well, yeah, of course you can. Yeah, I think I'll try to handle that for you. And you give it to them, just how happy they get. It sounds so simple, but it's something that means so much to them. Okay. How to change the numbering system for ordered list. Very similar way. Again, these are the ones you have available to you. It is decimal by default, 1 to 10. If you want to start with 0, 0, 1 through 0, 9, then 10, etc., you can use decimal leading 0. Sometimes people look at it, why would I ever want to do that? A lot of times with computer sites, you'll see it like that. All right? Lowercase alpha, uppercase alpha, lower Roman, and upper Roman, those should all make sense. So again, you set the class, and then you set it in CSS. You will be asked to do this on your next test. Just go to that page. Those pages if you have any trouble.
What page is this?
Well, the 251 and 249.
Okay.
So 249 had the stuff for unordered list. 251 has the stuff for ordered lists. All right. All right. How to change the alignment of list items. First of all, remember when we talked about using that, using either that normalized file or the reset? If you use the normalize or the reset for everything, that your unordered list is going to look really ugly. It's going to be squished together, and it's going to be squished to the left side. Does that make sense? All right. So you can go in there and you can add padding and margin. But when you're adding padding and margin, okay, I want to show you this. I'm just going to grab something from out of here. Let's see. This will work. All right. Okay, CNN.com. So if I go through here and I start looking, why is it? There it is. See this up here? Everybody see what I've got? That actually is an unordered list. Does that make sense? All right. I can do whatever I want to do with that. But notice what they have done. Okay? They have stuck it inside of what's called literally a nav bar. That's the black area around it. Okay? They put it in some kind of order. They also put links between, a little bit of margin between each one. Does that make sense? And they got rid of what? There's no image. There's no circle. There's no bullet. There's no nothing. So you see this stuff all the time. All right? Now, it's funny that over time, because I've been going out to CNN.com for a long time, they're adding more and more stuff up here. Okay? And it's the only reason I say that is forgetting the live TV, all that stuff. Notice how much room that takes up. All right? And again, if you're going to do something like this, typically over on the left here, sometimes this is called your brand. See where it says CNN? So if I go out to entertainment here, and there's nothing special, I could have clicked any of them. But notice if I click the brand, where I always get back to. That's just standard, that whenever you click the logo to a place, you jump back to the home page. Why? Because it's a very fast way to get there. All right, people are used to that. People like things that are commonality. Microsoft years ago literally wrote a book. This is no joke. You can look it up on how to create a menu for your application so it looks like a Microsoft menu. I mean, only Microsoft would push their stuff down your throat and then write a book on how to do it and have people buy it. All right. But why would people do that? Because they're used to working with Microsoft Office, for example. They want their menus to work the same way. They want them to look the same way. All right. So again, you can use margins and padding to control indentation, remove indentation, add extra indentation, etc. When you do this, it's recommended you use M's or rems. You may not remember this, but M's and rems are relative size. Don't use pixels and points, which are an absolute size. All right? All right. Coding links. Am I right in assuming this part right here, A href equals, everybody gets that? Am I right in assuming that? All right. So you know what the href is. You can put a title on something. Why would you put a title on it? You know what a tooltip is? Does everybody know? When you put your mouse over something, you get the little bubble that comes up. If you put a title on your link, you can get a little tooltip that comes up if you want to do that. All right? Tab index. Yeah.
If you were to explain that href definition or description, how would you dumb it down?
I would just say, this is going to be an anchor tag. So when I click this, I want to go here.
Okay, cool.
That's about the simplest I can make it.
Right, that makes sense.
Okay. Now this, access key equals C, means I can also do the same thing with a shortcut. I can do a Control C if I want to add that. All right. Tab index, you may or may not be aware of this. I always say there's basically 3 generations of people. Some people literally, especially like in your generation, like things that are graphical. All right. They just want, they want to be able to do stuff, click an icon or do whatever to do what they want to do. But some people, and it's actually probably the generation before me, a lot of people were like administrative assistants and they hit tab to go from place to place on their computer. That's what tab index does. If you don't set a tab index, this will become really apparent. It's either chapter 11 or chapter 14. You'll learn how to build forms. But you want to set your form up so you can tab from field to field, because some people just do that. There's nothing wrong with doing it, but you want to make sure if they tab from field to field, you put it in an order which is easy for them to work with. All right. So notice accessibility guidelines. If the text for the link is going to be short, add a title attribute. So for instance, really Rankin's website is not long. https://rankin.edu. So I could set a title for that just said Rankin Technical College website. All right. Tab order I've already mentioned. Access key I've already mentioned. All right. Formatting links. We did talk about these, not in a lot of detail, so let's look at them. If you're going to use this stuff, they're called pseudo classes. Pseudo means false. All right? But the point is, see those 5 things, link, visited, hover, focus, active? If you're going to use them, and you're going to use more than one of them, always put them in that order. That order matters. Why? Because if you don't put them in that order, one can override the other one. Okay? Link is a link that has not yet been visited. You already know this. It's blue and it's underlined. We talked about that before. Visited, has been visited. It's purple and it's underlined by default. So you knew those. Hover is when you take your mouse and put it over it. So you'll hover over it, you'll get it off, and it doesn't have that color anymore. Focus, it says an element like a link or form control has the focus. Typically, that's when you click on it. All right? And then finally, active, when it's currently active. That becomes red. All right? Now, these we looked at a little bit before, that text decoration. One sec. The one you use most often there is text decoration, none. That removes the underline from hyperlinks. So again, going back to the example I showed you before, none of these are underlined. but you're all smart enough to know they're all hyperlinks. Yes?
Oh, I was gonna say, like, what do you mean by active? What does it mean
If
by active?
technically, if you look on the screen, if I click right there, I haven't let go yet. While I clicked on it, it was active.
Okay.
All right.
Just when you click and don't let go.
The ones you're going to use most often are going to be these. All right. Border style. Images by default, you may or may not know this, images by default will have a border around them. All right. Sometimes, so let's look. Is there a border around this? I can't tell, but there could be a very light one right there. But if you want to make sure there's no border, you can literally set that to none, period. That's probably the easiest way to do this. So notice what the author has done here. Now notice the link color is green. The hover and the focus, that says when you put your mouse over them, notice there's no underline anymore, and notice the size is 1 1/4 times its regular size. Again, the easiest way to learn this stuff is to just play with it. All right. Accessibility guidelines say apply the same formatting to hover and focus. All right. Otherwise, it can be very hard to tell when you go from one to the other. All right. This one I've actually told you about before, and I showed you. There is something that's referred to as Netiquette. And that's how polite you are when you're on the internet. All right? Good Netiquette says that if I'm right here, so if I'm here right there, and let's assume that it says here drop from SNL. Let's assume that this went to some other website, maybe SNL's website. That makes sense? I wouldn't open that in the same window I'm in. I would open it in a brand new window on the browser. The reason for doing that is if you don't open it up in a new window, by default, many people think, oh, that's your site. And it may be your site, and it may not. So if I've got my own website that I'm creating, all right, so I just, this example will really bring it home. The one I showed you before, this one, okay, notice right here, I've got what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 windows open, right? I'm going to click on here. How many do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I opened it up in my window. That's not my website, though. Would you agree? It is allrecipes.com. So if I had just changed mine so that it looked, bring that one up, and there's the website right there, Ahref, etc. But I'd come back in here and I would do this. I'm going to put it on another line just so you see it. Target equals underscore blank. Oops. That's it. Save. All right. Go back to here. I'm going to refresh. Doesn't look any different. But now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Because I put target equals underscore blank, it opened it up in a new window. Question?
Oh, I'm wondering why. Well, you said you were thinking about Netiquette. Good Netiquette? Which one would be good Netiquette?
Good Netiquette is what I just showed you. Bad Netiquette would be opening it up in your window.
Okay.
Because that's giving the perception that's part of your website.
Oh, okay.
When it's not.
That makes sense.
I mean, literally, you can go out online. There are rules. You know, you can type in Netiquette, and they've got a bunch of suggested rules. All right, some of them are like, you know, come on, that's a little ridiculous. But a lot of them do make a lot of sense. All right. So whether your browser opens in a new window or in a new tab depends on your browser settings. Okay. This is an important part here. This is links to placeholders. I'm asking you this question. Have you ever used a website It's fairly long, but it's one page. You go down on the bottom of it, and there's a hyperlink there that says go to top. You click it, boom, you jump to the top of the page. That's a placeholder. All right, that's exactly what they're talking about here. So when you look,
It's the same thing if you have like the arrow scrolling down with you, it's pointing up.
it's a way that you can move your way around a document if that's what you're asking.
You
Yeah.
know, like when you scroll down, there's an arrow that moves you sometimes.
It depends, because if you're moving to another page, it's not the same
Yeah.
thing. If you're moving to another part of the same page, yes.
Same page, as you scroll down.
Yeah. So notice there's a return to top here. We don't know if this looks like it's already at the top, but if this was really long and you put that down there, boom, you jump back up to the top. All right? Now, it used to be, when I was teaching probably about 15 years ago, see these things right here? You would create, most web pages were almost broken in two. There wouldn't really be dashes there. But this area that was right in here was called a frame. In fact, one assignment I used to give to students every semester was I'd have here A, B, C, D, all the way down to Z. And guess what that was? It was a kid's coloring book. And they had to go out and find animal pictures for each letter. So they put an A, they click there, boom, what would show here? An alligator. They do B, what would show here? A bear. That kind of an idea. All right? But today that's not considered at all in vogue. Frames basically are gone, other than an iframe, which is a place where you can put an image. Okay? But if this is really long, I might want right here, jump to X. Maybe that's X. All right? And, down here is Y, let's just say. And I say, and I've got another thing here that says, jump to Y. You click that, boom, you go down here. Down here I've got my go to top. Click it, and I go up to there. Does that make sense?
It's like if you have, if you're like, say like, for example, you're filling out a job application, it says, have you had experience in Moodle? If not, jump to.
It's, you could say, it's sort of that kind of an idea, yeah. But a lot of times, you come out to a web page, you know exactly where you want to go. So if somebody can put jumps in there, and it doesn't have to jump on the same page. You can jump anywhere in your website, all right, where you set it up. Not only that, let's say I own 2 websites. I could jump from one of my websites to another of my websites. Now, can I jump from my website to yours? I can jump from my website to the beginning of yours, but I can't jump to a special part in yours unless I know what that is and I have your permission to do so. All right? So when you do that, what do? Well, notice what we have here. This would be at the top of the page. 8 reasons why trainers like our books. So there it is. So when we create that, each one, we put an ID there called top. Then down at the bottom, we've got return to top, and notice it says ahref equal pound top. That means the pound means in the same document, look for an ID named top, and go there. Where is that? That's what we created right here. You will be asked to do that and have like a go to top on your next test. So that's page 261. All right. Not only this, as it says here, you can link to media files. Look at all those. You can link to PDFs, to WAV files, to MP3s. You can link to just about anything you want to. All right. Now, if you go and link to a PDF and the person who opens that up and clicks on it doesn't have a PDF reader, they may be out of luck. Does that make sense? Or if they have no, Flash isn't as popular as it used to be. All right. And the main reason that Flash has gone down in popularity is Flash isn't supported by Apple.
Really?
Yes.
I knew
they have
Chromebooks didn't use Flash.
Yeah. Very limited support at best.
Yeah.
And that's been for quite a few years.
Okay. Flash is really great.
So again, notice what we have here. We're jumping right into a PDF. So you put a hyperlink in here, you click it, it brings up a PDF. All right. So as the author says here, special media players may be required. As I mentioned, if you tried to click a link that said open this to see my PDF and you don't have a PDF reader, you could be in trouble. All right. But you probably would also provide there a hyperlink that says click here if you don't have a PDF to download a free PDF reader. All right. All right. Email, phone, and Skype links. Last week, there was a meeting of the Women in Technology Club. Maya went. To my knowledge, what you guys did is you Skyped in, correct?
Yeah, I didn't know. Yeah.
Okay. But the one that's used most often is what's called a mail to link. If you've never seen this before, please look up on the screen. See that? What that will do, that line, that mail to, it works just like a regular href. What you'll have here is send us an email. But if you put your mouse over the hyperlink, it'll say you're sending that email to support@muroc.com. So if we had something that where you on your website said something like, to send me a personal message, click here type of thing, you could use a mail to link. All right. The phone number is also important because have you ever had, I know you have, you've used your phone at some time or another, you bring up a website, you click on their hyperlink, and it'll actually show you, it'll have a little thing there if you want to give them a call.
Yeah, I do it when I want to order food.
Yes, that's probably the most popular way of doing it. Yeah, but that's how you can do it. You can also open up a Skype chat with that. I'm not that concerned with the Skype stuff, but you should, as shown on page 265, know how to do a mail to and know how to use the tel for telephone. All right, navigation menus. Let's finish this up. If you put in the code that's shown right here, see this code? You put in all that under your HTML, and you put in this under your CSS, you'll get this. That's a menu. You may or may not agree, but it's a vertical menu. That's vertical. Look on the screen. That's horizontal. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
For many years, vertical was in vogue. Everybody used vertical menus. Now, horizontal menus are more in vogue. All right? And notice it's not much CSS. Turn off no dots, circles or anything. Display it block, which means put it on one line, add some padding, and remove the underlines. Boom. There you got it. Here's a horizontal menu. Some people like the first one. Very short, succinct, to the point. Some people like the second one because, look at this. You can take whatever one is active and make that a different color. How do you do that? By using that hover property that we talked about before. All right? And again, they show you all the code for setting those up. So if I ask you to customize the menu that we created for your test, it'll be on 269. Now you can go nuts. This is a two-tier menu. Sometimes they fall right below it like that. You probably have seen it sometimes they're to the left or to the right. It's how you want to set it up. But the bottom line is this. What do we have? We got a UL, and inside of our UL is another UL. So our history and board of directors, that's the submenu. Okay? You can even take it another level. That's 3 levels. There's level 1, there's level 2, there's level 3. So what do you have? A UL, and inside that a UL, and inside that another UL. typically you don't see them much more than 3 levels deep, just because it's too hard for people to understand. So the CSS for this is shown on what? It's shown on page 275. That's it. I will tell you, especially if you're struggling with tests and retaining this information, look at the bottom here. I'm on 277. They always have a good summary on the end of each chapter. All right, so let's do this.